Howdy do there. Today we're going to be working on a garden box. It's going to be a simple, shallow garden box. I'm going to fill it with a bulb. Not going to be a huge box, it's going to be a nice small box. It's going to be light duty, so it's going to be super easy, super simple. Nothing like what you've seen in my other videos, which are made of big timbers and anticipated to try and last forever. Alright. So let's get plugging away. What I've got here are 2, 4, 6 boards. This is all scrap lumber from Lowe's. They're fence boards that I either split or warped or twisted. I rarely get the chance to work with fresh, good stuff. So you'll notice that in some of my videos, the stuff comes out a little wonky. Well, that's because I'm not a carpenter. I do use a lot of scrap lumbers and scrap woods, so it affects the outcome of how pretty it looks, but functionality remains the same. It just looks a little awkward. And to show you that, I might run a clip of walking around one of my boxes that I did last year for my strawberry beds. It's a little extra warm. So let's get cracking. What we're going to do is we're going to use the full length of 4 of these boards, and then the other 2 I'm going to cut in half so that it's a narrow box with a bit of length to it. So for the ones that I cut in half, I want them to be not split like some of these other boards are. This one I could probably use just like this. But you can see there's a crack that runs from here to here. So if I cut it in half, there's not going to be a whole lot there holding it together. But if I leave it whole, I can put 2 screws in here, 2 screws in here, and it'll probably hold together just fine. Now again, I'm using what they call Cole lumber, and these are cedar fence boards. So they're approved for outside, and they're going to look rustic and what have you, and they should last a while because they're cedar, and should work out quite well. We're going to use these 2 boards here, I think. Let's see, this one, I don't see any splits in it, and this one. Alright, now we're going to try and keep it simple so that it's a simple project for pretty much anybody to do. We're not going to use any power tools other than a screwdriver, a drill driver. So we'll be using the miter box to cut stuff in half, just to show that pretty much anybody can make it. Alright, and then for our corners, what we'll end up using is 2x2 scraps that I have from other projects that I've done. And we'll use 4 of these for post corners. Oh. Alright, so the first thing we're going to get to doing here, we're going to measure out our boards. They're all about the same length. Can't remember how long they are. 6 feet. So we want to cut these at 3 feet. Usually you do this at the end of a table, but right here I've got this gap in the table which works just as well, just so that you can angle your saw down if you need to. But with these flat, I believe it's called a coping saw, nice and level is usually the way to go. Room to work. So you can see that with those choppy yet slow movements, I've gotten myself a groove. Now this will make it so that now I should be able to start working at it a little bit faster, and it'll cut faster. flat, clean cut. Best way to get a nice clean cut is if you have a little bit of support on that board that overhangs. So, okay. There's those. Time for the next one. It's pretty simple. Now we're going to start assembly. I'm going to start with the end pieces because they'll be easier to manipulate when they're attached to these posts. Now, you're going to want to make sure that your posts are flat and that the boards stack up flatly against these. The straighter you can keep them at the beginning, the better off you will be. Now, since I'm going to be working with less than awesome prepared soil, I think what I'm going to do is get a spacing of about this board length, which is about 1/2 inch at the bottom, so that these posts can kind of sit just above the ground, and it might be easier for me to level it off. Alright, this is probably one of the hardest parts of this build. Mostly because I don't really have an extra set of hands that I can trust to help me out here. So, gonna have to do it solo. So what I'll do is I'll start one screw in this board, just enough to keep it in place. Okay. And I'm going all the way to the edge of the board that I just put on. You can go just to the edge of the post, or you can actually put it on the inside and have the post showing. It's all dependent on what you want it to look like in the end. I think I'll shoot this one right here. And I'm going to leave it loose so that I can move it. And I'm going to go down to the other end. And I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. All right, as you can see, I just repeated the process that I did on that side and the ends right here. Camera battery's getting a little low, so I shut you off for the last part of that. But doesn't look too bad. Now here you can see, when my shadow's out of the way, we used just a hammer drill. You can use a regular drill. We used number 8 inch and 5/8 screws, and we used a coping saw. You can use any hand saw you choose. You can use a circular saw. I'm just showing you how to use this one. So I used 2x2s for my corner posts and just 2 cedar deck fence panels. These ones were 6 foot. You can find them in 8 foot. Cut them in half, use them for the ends, and here in a minute we'll see what it looks like when it's on the ground and getting ready to be filled with dirt. Alright, so as my son demonstrated with me, this box is pretty light, just a little awkward to carry with one person. And I'm not entirely sure this is where I plan on filling this box up. I gotta look at it and contemplate what I want to do. So, but I got you the basics. It's definitely nice to lay down some sort of weed barrier, unless you prep out everything, like killing off the grass. Most people don't like it when you kill off grass with chemicals, just because, you know, it's a purist thing, and it's not necessarily great for the environment to do stuff. Alright everybody, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be laying down this weed barrier in our budget box with a layer of decaying wood material, bark chips, wood chips, sticks. We're going to lay it right at the bottom, kind of give us a little bit of a filler build-up. Then we got this really well mulched and dark soil. And then I also have a couple bags of store-bought soil that we'll put in here because it's usually fluffier and mixes pretty well. So, and being a shallow box, I kind of want it to be as light and fluffy as possible, just for easy planting. And because we're only going to have that weed barrier so far down, I don't want to have to try and turn that soil because I might end up grabbing that weed barrier. So let's get to it. Alright, this is all I can do for today. I've run out of dirt. I kind of figured this might happen. I only had one wheelbarrow full and a couple bags and a little bit of mulch to put at the bottom. Had a little extra from last year's big dirt dump from the dump truck. But I'll eventually fill this box up and it'll be all the way to the top here. I'm going to try and mound it to the middle. And then I'll go ahead and I'll sow my onion seeds right in on top here. And maybe when I fill this up and I start planting, then that's when I'll go ahead and show you how it looks when it's all done here. But for now, I should take care of us. See what kind of trouble I can get into tomorrow. Later.